Before rooftop concerts, before breakups, before Let It Be, Get Back, and their final stop at Abbey Road, there was a Yellow Submarine. And a psychedelic detour that felt like the most fantastical fever dream.
Picture yourself in a boat. Submarine.
The Yellow Submarine.
This is the story of how and why the Beatles became animated characters in a surreal underwater world, and how one of their strangest projects became a cult classic. And this one they kind of stumbled into accidentally in the sense that they didn't plan it. But in order to tell this story, we're gonna have to rewind the clock and work our way backwards through time. So let's just quickly set the scene and paint a picture for you. It's 1967, deja vu, and the Beatles have just dazzled the world with Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. At this point, they're no longer mere musicians. No, they've advanced to becoming avatars of a generation. They are icons of peace, love, sound, color, innovation, transformation, that vibe. And yeah, while they were changing the music world forever, there was another contract from years before that, even before this, that was stalking its way over to catching up to them. Going backwards in the calendar even further to 1965, when Beatlemania was still untamably, unescapably red hot, the Beatles signed a 3-film deal with United Artists. Help and A Hard Day's Night were massive hits. But the third film, that was still on the table. Desperate to capitalize on more of that Beatles gold, proposed a workaround. All right, listen up, boys. What if we went about this one like an animated film, huh? Less work for the band, more creative freedom for the studio, you know, how those guys like that. And now this time, there's a little something for the kids. Everyone wins. John, Paul, George, and Ringo weren't particularly interested, personally, but they said yes, nonetheless, mostly just to get through with this contract. They weren't expecting much. So who enters the chat but George Dunning and Al Broddux, the director and producer behind the previous Beatles cartoon series. They were given one job: come up with an animated feature loosely based on Beatles music. The concept they come back with, this animated Technicolor adventure through Pepperland.
Pepperland.
Which is this underwater world where music has been banned by a group called the Blue Meanies, and they're this villainous, joyless group that I guess has a phobia of music, and the only way to save it is with the Yellow Submarine, 4 musical heroes, and a little help from their friends. It was, I mean, what does it sound like to you? It was bizarre, whimsical, and you know what? Despite how insane it all sounds, it worked. And here comes the twist, which I knew you saw coming, unless you already know what I'm about to tell you, which, why am I saying this? You already do know this. The Beatles didn't voice themselves. Surprise, surprise. Impressionists were hired to imitate John, Paul, George, and Ringo. The actual Beatles, you know, they were busy. They were working on Magical Mystery Tour and then the White Album, and, you know, there was a lot of things going on with them. But they did come through with 4 original tracks. Only a Northern Song, All Together Now, Hey Bulldog, and It's All Too Much. And they also did include some previous already released tracks like Eleanor Rigby, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, and, oh well, the title track, Yellow Submarine. So how did the movie actually turn out? That is the question, and here's the harsh truth. Way better than anyone expected. The animation was, it just reeled you in. It was wild, vivid, inventive, and fresh for its time, completely fresh for its time. It was exploding with kaleidoscopic colors, surrealist imagery, and Monty Python-style absurdity. It was playful, smart, and even a bit philosophical. It went there. Now, here's the delicious irony of it all. When the Beatles watched the film, they loved it and embraced it. They even agreed to film a live-action epilogue where they briefly appeared as themselves, not even in cartoon form, and they were smiling, waving, and singing all together now.
Blue Meanies?
Newer and Blue Meanies have been sighted within the vicinity of this theatre.
1, 2, 3, ah!
The film premiered in London on July 17, 1968. Critics raved, audiences were enchanted, and the Beatles, who thought that they were just phoning this in, had found themselves stuck to an animated masterpiece. Let's delve into the 4 new songs because each of them gives us this unique glimpse into the Beatles' headspace during this strange era. Only a Northern Song, George's sly jab at the music industry and his relationship to his place in it.
When you're listening late at night, band are not quite right.
Hey Bulldog, showcasing John at his most biting and playful, full of piano stomps and cryptic lyrics. And then All Together Now, of course, a McCartney song that's so simple it loops its way back around to genius.
E, F, G, H, I, J, I love you.
None of these were intended as A-sides. That's important to remember. But in the context of Yellow Submarine, they sparkle. It's also worth noting that Yellow Submarine came at a weird moment. Behind the scenes, the band was unraveling. Brian Epstein had just died, for starters. Creative tensions were rising, and the White Album sessions were just around the corner, and those weren't easy. So this weird little cartoon, it was so valuable. It was almost like a time capsule, like this moment of levity before the storm, a love letter to the psychedelic innocence of 1967, before the lurking, darker introspections of 1968. And in many ways, Yellow Submarine was even more than all of that. It inspired animation as a whole for decades. It influenced bands to take bigger risks and leaps, and so what? And it was a great reminder that imagination, joy, silliness, and surrealism could still be revolutionary. It's not often, that you get an animated film that has a message like music defeats evil, laughter matters, color heals. But the Beatles, even from a distance, managed to say all that and more. By the end of 1968, Yellow Submarine had become a cult classic, done deal. It was re-released in the 70s, remastered in the 90s, and now stands as one of the great animated films of the 20th century. Hey Bulldog, not bad for an obligation. Oh, and that third film deal with United Artists, officially fulfilled. Check. So if you were ever wondering how the Beatles ended up in a submarine and fighting Blue Meanies, singing in a world of talking apples and flying gloves, now you know. And as Jennifer Coolidge might say, oh God, it was weird. Or as Fran, the nanny herself, might say, oh, Mr. Sheffield, it was wonderful. And all the while, it was still perfectly the Beatles.